Thank you guys for coming out this morning. I appreciate you being here. Also want to just take a minute to thank first responders, the Brightline Safety and Security team, who came out to the scene this morning. I'll be directing all aspects of the incident, the investigation, to the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department and Palm Beach Police. But I do want to take this moment, and I want to use this morning's incident as an educational reminder. First, the tragedy of these incidents are not lost on us, and certainly not lost on the first responders, the Brightline Safety Security team. There's a lot of people affected, the individual, their families, not to mention, last but not least, our locomotive engineers who see this incident firsthand and have to experience it. So the tragedy is not lost. What makes these events so tragic is that they're preventable. This morning's incident, the gates were down, the warning lights were flashing, the bells were ringing, and an individual made a dangerous choice to drive around the gates and put their life at risk. And we've all heard this saying, and I would repeat it again, a few seconds is not worth putting your life at risk. And so today I would just continue to remind the public, and I would ask the media to remind the public, to be safe around railroad tracks. Obey all signs and warnings, obey the crossing arms if they're down, obey the lights, recognize that this is an active railroad track, trains can come in both directions, and you have to always be on alert that a train could be in the area. I would also just remind everybody that, this is Brightline takes safety and security, it's our number one priority, and it always has been. Since before we even began operating, we were conducting safety education along the corridor. Currently today, we have a safety campaign in 4 different languages. We're making improvements to 48 different crossings. These crossings here are approved, as all of our railroad is, to be safe by the FRA. Our education campaign is in Spanish, English, Portuguese, Creole. We work with local first responders. We work with local school districts. We work with local suicide prevention hotline 211, because that's something that we've seen along the corridor as well, is suicide. And so we encourage anybody who is struggling with mental illness or issues that they call 211 today. And again, one of the things that we're going to do this morning that we don't always do is we're going to release the video of this incident. We will send the video to you, and we're doing that as a public service opportunity and educational announcement to show the dangers of making dangerous decisions around active railroad tracks. I'll take a couple questions and then we'll go from there.
So Ben, when we see the video, can you just kind of walk us through, if we were watching it, explain a little bit what happened?
Yeah, and again, you should talk to local PD to get the details of the investigation. But what you'll see on the video is an individual driving north, taking a left-hand turn on Washington. And as they took the left-hand turn, as the gates were already down because there is a freight train in the area and a Brightline train in the area, they took a left, went around a car, went around a gate, and that's when the incident occurred.
Great. And then as far as, you brought up safety and how it's top priority and whatnot, some advocates or critics, I guess we could say, when it comes to Brightline, this is the 4th incident in just a few days. We need pedestrian bridges, we need fencing, we need this or that. What would you say to those critics who think more can be done to prevent something like this from happening?
Yeah. Today's incident, and we've seen others like this, was preventable. The crossing arms were down, the warning lights were flashing. And so what needs to happen is education and proper behavior around railroad tracks. I would say that the railroad is safe. It's operated safe. None of these incidents have been the fault of the freight system or the Brightline system. The railroad is safe. It is behavior that we need to continue to educate and change around these railroad tracks.
Ben, knowing that this is the 3rd crash with Brightline this week, is that a concern to you? What's your response to this being the 3rd this week?
Well, this is our response. Our response is to come out to the public and to continue to educate them on how to behave around railroad tracks. And we need your help. We need everybody's help. We need the media's help. This is not a message of, who's to blame. It's a message of there are proper ways to behave around railroad tracks, and you have to recognize that these are active tracks. We also need those who have, large followings in the area, elected officials, members of the media, members of the community, business leaders, to just remind the public that trains are in the area. We need to behave safely around these tracks to make sure we obey all warning signs in the area. The other thing I would say is Brightline as a system is extremely safe. Prior to COVID, we were moving millions of people a year safely to their destination, taking them off of our roadways, which are some of the most dangerous in the country. And so that's that's the importance of a system like this, is as our communities grow, we have to have other forms of transportation. Brightline is a great example of that, and it takes other people off the roads. It's a safe way to travel.
And to those critics, despite that this is a preventable instance, is Brightline considering any measures, looking at any safety measures?
Well, let me tell you the measures that we've taken, because I think it's important. One, we've run an education campaign for years, even prior to operating trains. Even when we were done, even when we had suspended operations during the pandemic, we continued to engage in educational behavior, social media, public service announcements, working with local school districts. So that campaign continues. We have a physical aspect of that campaign called the Buzz Box that we take to homeless shelters, youth centers, and in exchange for taking a rail safety pledge, you get a free haircut. We're working with 211 on mental health and suicide prevention. We've worked with the federal government, the FRA, and received a CRISI grant for improvements to 48 different crossings. And now we're piloting new technologies, including drone cameras and long-range cameras that can help us see more areas along the corridor, to prevent different instances that we may see. So there's a lot that we're doing. We continually, are evaluating this with both the FRA, FDOT, other partners, but we continue to engage with the community, and we need everybody's help to help spread the message that you have to make the right choices around active railroad tracks. I'll take one more question. All right, thanks a lot, guys.